Hello you lot, my name is Max, welcome back to the YouTube channel and another Nottingham Forest match preview where today we are discussing Forest's upcoming home match against Liverpool, one of the biggest sides in the Premier League, currently riding high off a big 1-0 win against current Premier League champions Manchester City. If you're new around these parts, this series goes as follows, and we start by giving some context and an initial discussion on our opposition, followed by some talk about the stats and the key players for them. Then we start talking about the tactics in a little bit more detail and what we can actually expect from them on the day, followed by my scoreline predictions for the match. So if you do enjoy this kind of stuff, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. And with that being said, let's start talking about Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool. So as we do, we'll start talking and giving some context to Liverpool and their season thus far, and it has been a pretty difficult start in the first dozen or so games of this Premier League season for Liverpool. At the time of recording, they sit 7th in the Premier League table, having picked up just 2 wins from their last 5 Premier League fixtures, but obviously we'll be riding high off a really good result, a 1-0 win at Anfield against current champions Manchester City. And that really leaves them in a real fight for the Champions League places. Man City and Arsenal look like the 2 runaway teams in the Premier League this season. Graham Potter's Chelsea look much improved since his appointment a few weeks back. Even Man United and Spurs have had some really good fixtures and results in recent weeks, which have put them in a healthy position to potentially qualify for it next season. And it leaves Liverpool in quite a difficult position in terms of qualifying for it this season. And it's going to be interesting to see how they end up doing down the line. But I think most Liverpool fans would agree that this season was going to be a transitional one. Obviously losing Sadio Mane, went to join Bayern Munich in Germany, bringing in £70 million forward Darwin Núñez from Benfica as his replacement, who has been good in spells but not really captured the form that attracted the fee in the first place. Of course, though, you've got to give them the time to get used to the system and all that kind of stuff. And like I say, I think most Liverpool fans would agree this was going to be a transitional year in which they built their team for the next season with the likes of Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota looking to come good by the end of the campaign. With that being said, let's start talking in a little bit more detail about the stats regarding Liverpool, where they've struggled this season, particularly defensively, and also about some of the key players that we should really be keeping an eye out for in this team when they come to the City ground. So on the surface, Liverpool's attack has not been that bad this season. They are the 3rd highest scoring team in the Premier League at the time of recording, have generated the 2nd most expected goals over the course of the season, and take around 17 shots per 90, which is the 2nd highest tally per 90 in the Premier League. But with the benefit of hindsight and some research into the last couple of seasons, their attack has actually declined quite significantly, particularly off of last season. They've scored 25% less goals than they had at this stage last season. They've generated much less in terms of expected goals and are actually down around 2 shots per 90 compared against this time last season. They may not sound like particularly big differences, especially so early in a Premier League campaign, but when you look at the fine margins that have seen teams qualify and not qualify for the Champions League places in the last couple of seasons, it really does worry you that potentially this could be the year that they actually miss out. Now, of course, it's quite hard to point the finger at what is actually going wrong for Liverpool's attack this season. And again, I use the word wrong in quite a loose sense. They're still the highest scoring team in the Premier League. They're still probably 2nd best in terms of attacking in the Premier League. But it could be a combination of Mane's departure, of course, having a big impact on the side. Núñez not really settling as quick maybe as Klopp would have liked. Maybe it's 7th season syndrome, as people are saying on the internet, that maybe Klopp has just had his time at the club and the players are starting to rebel a little bit and not want to play at the level of intensity. Could be a combination of a few other things, but I think there is definitely a lot of factors at play as to why Liverpool have struggled so much. Another one of those factors has been their defence, which I would argue has been a greater issue for them this season. They've conceded the 9th most goals in the Premier League this campaign. They're actually 6th from bottom on expected goals conceded. They have the 6th worst defence on expected goals, basically, behind teams like Palace, Leicester, Villa, teams who you wouldn't associate with having a better defensive record than Liverpool this season. It's absolutely crazy. And in terms of shots, they're actually only conceding around 10 shots per 90, and it does suggest that they are giving up really high quality opportunities, which has been a problem for Liverpool due to how high they play their line and the space left in behind. And I kind of want to go back to that last point, talking about the high line. It's a real hallmark of Klopp's game. It's a real hallmark of this Liverpool team and why they've been so dominant over the last few seasons. What it does leave is a lot of running space in behind, potentially something for Nottingham Forest to capitalise on. It leaves them exposed defensively with Van Dijk and Matip offering covering runs, but obviously not being the most mobile centre-backs in the world. But what they do have in goal is one of the best goalkeepers one-on-one. And there is an expectation usually when you see Liverpool that they are going to have a one-on-one opportunity from the opposition striker on Alisson, and having Alisson in goal who's so solid between the six, obviously a great keeper in possession, but one of the best shot-stopping keepers in the world. It really does give you that solid base that if you do concede those opportunities, you're probably more likely not to concede than to concede. So in terms of the personnel to look out for, I feel like this one is pretty obvious. Mo Salah, although not had his best season, has got some form together since that hat-trick against Rangers in the Champions League a couple of weeks back. Trent, again, not having his best season defensively, but still such a big threat in the final third. Darwin Núñez starting to get some form together in the Premier League. And it really does feel like, in terms of their attacking talent, we are not going to be having a fun time against them. So overall, despite their shortcomings, Liverpool are still a very solid team. They have taken a few steps back in terms of their attacking prowess, and of course their defensive record has been pretty poor this season, but that is by no means any way to write them off over the course of this season. I still back them to probably qualify for the Champions League, and I still back them to go very deep in UEFA competition, whether that's Champions League or Europa League. And overall, they are still probably one of the best teams in the world, despite having dropped down a gear this season. So with that being considered, let's spend a brief time talking about the tactics. I'm not going to spend too long on it. I feel like it's pretty obvious how Liverpool want to play. I'm more going to focus on what we should be doing as Forest as to best get a result out of this game at the City Ground. So really, it is no secret how Liverpool play in the Premier League under Jurgen Klopp. It's been pretty similar, more or less since he took over the club about 7 or 8 years ago. But just to give you a refresher on the white and the board, which is their away kit, because I'm not having two teams on red on the board, they play around something close to a 4-3-3 formation. They have actually dabbled with a couple of different formations over the course of the season. They've experimented with something closer to a 4-4-2, where they really want to maximise the attacking quality in their side. But by and large, this is a team that has predominantly played a 4-3-3 throughout Klopp's reign as manager. In build-up, you'll often see Fabinho dropping between the centre-backs, which allows them to split wide. This has been predominantly Van Dijk and Matip, although Gomez has had some good games recently that could see him play against Forest, which really allows the fullbacks to stretch the opposition, getting as much width in this team and creating as much central space in the opposition. When you see Liverpool in the final third, the emphasis is on rotations and passing triangles, particularly in the wide areas. We'll often see this between Salah. Henderson has been the player on the right-hand side in the past, and Trent, always looking for rotations, always looking to pick up different positions to really maximise the strengths and mitigate the weaknesses of these players. You'll often see Trent, the player, holding the width, Henderson maybe making these runs inside, and obviously Salah occupying central attacking positions. What we've actually seen a lot more of this season is actually Salah being the player holding the width in this team. Henderson or the other central midfielder offering that holding position, dropping into the fullback slot as and when they need to, and actually Trent providing underlapping runs where he's actually in closer to the box. As long as they've got that player holding the width though, it doesn't really matter. On the other side, Luis Diaz has been the man starting there over the course of this season. Diogo Jota's played there as well. Not sure he's going to be playing there on the weekend. And that player is often coming inside, more often than not, much more of an inverted forward, very much what Mane was doing over the last few seasons for Liverpool. Allowing Robertson or Tsimikas, again, depending on who plays, to really stretch the team on the left-hand side and having that cover from someone like Thiago on the left-hand side of that midfield. And the real advantage of having this, if I get some straight lines up here, is that you're stretching the team from pillar to post as wide as possible, which allows you to create these central positions in and around the box where there's just not going to be able to be a marked run from the defender where your striker Darwin Núñez can occupy and attack those central positions. Now, the real disadvantage of this, and something we've seen quite a lot over the course of the last 12 months or so in this Liverpool team, is the acres of space that leaves in these areas, and it has left their defenders exposed more often than not. Now, I really like Van Dijk. I still believe he's probably in the top 3 centre-backs in the world right now. I think Matip is one of the most underrated centre-backs of the last decade in the Premier League. But the real disadvantage of this system is how exposed this can leave them one-on-one. When they're having a good game, they can deal with these issues. But if the opposition break out with pace and with width, they can almost seem flustered and sort of struggle to deal with these situations. Fabinho's not had a good season this year. He's really not got that mobility in the central areas that he has done in previous seasons that you see maybe from a Rodri, for example, at Manchester City. And if we can get the pace in there, if we can stretch this opposition, if we can use that space in behind them, particularly when they play their centre-backs over the halfway line and we can try and play off that offside trap, there is a really good opportunity there one-on-one, because we have one thing we do have in abundance is pace in the final third. Gibbs White is pretty quick. Brennan Johnson on his day is rapid. Even Taiwo and Dennis over a short distance are pretty quick forwards, and you do feel like it could leave us with a couple of opportunities where we could quickly spring something over the top. And I do think that might be an opportunity to bring someone like Joe Worrell, who can break the press and play long passes into the channels, back into the team over someone like Steve Cook. And of course, what that leaves you is one-on-one with Alisson Becker, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, probably the best goalkeeper in the world right now, who is one-on-one, especially one of the best keepers in the world. It's so hard to beat him in those one-on-one situations. He's so quick off his line. He's great at making himself big as a goalkeeper. As most of you will know, they always say, keep yourself big. Alisson is really good at doing that. He's a very big, intimidating frame. And one-on-one, you do back him to save most opportunities. But someone like Brennan Johnson running in, who is one of the best finishers at the club, anything could happen. So what should Forest be doing to try and maybe nick a point in this game, maybe even 3 points on a late goal? Well, we still need to be keeping that compact defensive shape, making sure that in and around the box, we are not giving Liverpool the time or place to get on the ball for sustained periods of time. We need to be tight on Trent, tight on Salah, and tight on Nunez in order to prevent them from really impacting the game, or Firmino or whoever started from really getting functioning in the game. Whatever we do defensively though, which is hopefully going to be a nice compact system, we do need to bring a traditional centre forward back into this team. I think Taiwo or Surridge would probably be best operated in this game. Whilst their hold-up play is not exceptional, it is better than all the other forwards in our team. And sometimes when you're punting the ball long, you do need someone who can come, drop it into deep pockets, pick up the ball and connect play with the other forwards to maybe even try and spring a couple of chances. And of course, they are naturally probably the best finishers at the club, barring Brennan as well. Lingard hasn't really looked at it when he's played in that sort of false nine attacking position this season. And I think bringing someone like Taiwo or Surridge into the team to sort of drop into those pockets, help link play and hopefully finish chances is our best shout. My final point is on this man over here on the left, Morgan Gibbs-White. I want to see him coming into more central positions. That's where he's the most impactful whenever you've seen him at his best for Forest or for Sheffield United last season. He was playing in more central areas, more in the half space than going into wide areas to really impact the play. When he does play out wide, you do get that really good defensive coverage. He does work really hard when he's put on the wing, but I want to see him coming into those central positions where he can really impact game and hopefully sort of spring those little passes. He loves to play between the lines, allowing him to drop into the space as well to pick up the ball and drive at the opposition. I think that's when Gibbs-White is at his best for Forest, and I would like to see him maybe do that a bit more against Liverpool. So in terms of the scoreline, I'm not going to be naive and suggest that we're going to win this game or maybe even draw it. I do think this is a game where there's no expectation for us to win, especially on Steve Cooper. What there should be an expectation though on is a hard-working performance in which the players, just like they were against Brighton, putting the bodies on the line, being solid defensively and trying to make the most of every attacking opportunity that we do get. If we can keep things down to a 1-0 or a 2-1 where the differential between the goals isn't too much, I would be pretty happy with that result. If we can limit them to having quite speculative efforts as well, that would be pretty good because Henderson has looked a lot better in the last couple of games. With that being said though, let me know what you think the scoreline is going to be in the comment section down below. And whilst you're down there, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. And check out my TikTok, be linked in that description as well. With that being said, enjoy the game, especially if you are going Reds. I will catch you later.